And we should be live again!
Hey, we're live again, and I'm again, Jonathan Cadotte, and with me as always, again, Owen Adams.
Hello everybody, how you doing? This almost certainly means the notifications won't get sent out properly, which is great.
Great.
Gee whiz. But hello everybody, sorry about that. Apparently,
Hey.
if you watched the previous stream, I'm playing a little bit of City Skylines while John and I chat. This is just a chilled stream where we're just talking about stuff. And City Skylines apparently doesn't like to actually generate a map for the first time while you're streaming, so we had a little bit of an issue. But we're back, everything's fine. I do apologize for that. And hopefully we'll get
back,
through this.
baby.
So I'm playing a little bit of City Skylines. John is doing some writing and stuff, I believe, with chitty-chatting and having fun. Is that the plan?
Yep, yeah, we're just gonna chit-chat. I'm just doing some writing. So, if you guys tuned in last week when we did this, basically the story and are currently in the process of creating a comic book series sort of thing going on. And I told them a long time ago that I work better when I'm in a social area. And this is probably the best I'm going to get to social area for right now.
Alone in your house.
Alone in my house with a British man in my ear. No, it's just I like being able to talk to people while I create.
Yeah. You know, some people have lots of different preferences, and some people are weird. There we go, I'm going to put the audio balance on. And I'm playing City Skylines because it's a nice, fun, casual game. I've called the city Biscuit Bay. This is going to be our city.
Biscuit
John.
Bay, nice.
This is where we're going to live. In the future.
Nice. It's just an irradiated wasteland, isn't it?
It will be by the time I get done with it. Hello to Luz Connor. How you doing, man? Welcome.
Hey, Luz. So I have a secret I need to reveal, a confession,
okay.
an admittance. I finished. I actually finished the script about 2 hours ago.
Oh. I mean, when we were
2 or
doing
3
the show,
hours ago.
While we were playing Wheel of Fortune?
No.
I just get it.
Like,
it's all
right...
like, then Drake enters the walkable snack company.
Drake.
I
no,
you were doing
actually, like
from the 90s. Dark Skull enters the walkable snack factory.
Coil and Tensile. Just...
Coil and Tensile.
Yeah.
A sidekick team.
Right. They're the backup to Cable, you know.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. Right. As scary as that sounds, they are the cheap, like, B movie version of Cable, even though he himself is already kind of the
cheap B movie version of Cable.
Yeah. I don't like the Cable.
He wasn't bad in X-Men the Animated Series, but that's because he was in a very, very specific context in which they traveled to a world that had gone wrong. And he was an example of a world
90s.
that had been ruined, you know?
Yeah, the 90s.
Right. Not a place anybody would or should want to go.
Yeah, the 90s.
Wouldn't it be great if Cable really did sum up, not how the 90s saw itself, but how the 90s really was? He was just like all kinds of multicolored zigzag designs on things.
Huge elephant leg pants.
And really bad rap.
90s rap is actually some of the best rap.
Some of it is. Some of it is.
Yeah.
Not the ones where it's like, I was walking down the street so I could go to buy meat, and then I said, hey, buying meat, yo.
One of the show's longtime favorites, Informa.
I lick your boom down.
But yeah, I finished, actually. I finished the first issue.
But nobody ever talks about his second album. I'm really sorry. I regret my earlier remarks, as we've discussed at length on my previous 5 albums.
If you guys want the full context of that joke, oh god, what episode? I'm gonna find it.
It was the last Dead by Daylight, because we switched to a different stream after that, remember?
Right, we gave it up after that.
We missed the format so much, where we actually used to be able to just chat about stuff. We switched.
Yeah.
And it was the good call. I'm actually liking our streams a lot more at the moment.
Yeah, me too.
Viewers not so much, but
yeah, viewers aren't too. I'll get a link. Let me just get a link here.
Hello to Ye and James. How you doing? We're trying to get through this then, the industrial. So, while I am playing City Skylines, mostly this is just a chance for us to chat. So you finished the comic.
Yeah.
Have you given it a rewrite, or are you just going to send it to me sloppy and useless?
Damn!
Sorry.
Says the guy who's nervous about his artwork. Like, you really want me to get judgmental on no, I'm gonna... that's what I'm using this time for. I am kind of going through it, skimming through it. No, I know the parts I want to punch up a little bit, but for the most part, probably gonna go as is. You know, it's... Yeah,
I'm looking forward to actually doing the first little bits on it. It's going to be... So the reason we're doing this is John wanted to practice writing comic scripts, and I wanted to practice doing some art. Because the simple fact is, and I know so many artists who feel this way. So many. Like, even... I've even seen it expressed from people who are working as professional illustrators of some kind or other. People who go, yeah, but, you know, I can't imagine how much better I would be if I'd started 5 years sooner. If I just started doing it, you know? And that's something I hear so often, like, if I wish I'd just started... It seems to be very, very common among people who draw. And I think it's because the difference between bad writing and good writing is very, very easy to tell if you're a writer, but not necessarily if you're not. But a bad drawing, this is why I'm so nervous about it, I think people can see it immediately. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, there
are some bad writing like that, too.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Like, the thing about, like, bad writing is a lot of times no one really realizes it's bad writing until they reach the end.
Right. And then you're like, what?
Huh. Like, just one of those things like, huh. Like, there's a thing with writing that you can kind of get away with, where you can have a bad section of writing that seems like, okay, there's a mistake here, there's a continuity issue here, all this sort. If at the end you have some sort of way to explain it, like, it might not even be a good explanation, but if you can make it seem intentional, you can kind of get away with a lot of mistakes.
Right.
So here, Loose Corner says, "Hi, our name is what? Our name is who? Our name is those aren't biscuits."
Get out. Do you know what? That's my favorite Eminem song.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It comes from that era when, like, I mean, he was terrible. But we sort of got it, you know? He's just this goofy, stupid person who makes stupid songs. And then afterwards he sort of went into serious rap. Like that first
And he's a
song,
good rapper, too. Like,
yeah.
he's actually legitimately good.
That first song is funny.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that I keep on seeing these advertisements, right, for this documentary called The Defiant Ones, which is supposed to be a documentary about the first like the first couple of years of Eminem and Dr. Dre's professional relationship, right? And what was it like for Dr. Dre to try to sign this? I mean, I don't mean to make it this way, but it's true. A white rapper, and then Eminem blowing up the way he did, right? It's supposed to be this documentary about this time, right? And it seemed really interesting because I like to keep on showing these ads for it, and the ads specifically talk about their first meeting, and they meet and they're at Dr. Dre's house, and he has a recording studio, and so Dr. Dre goes, okay, well, nice to meet you. Like, here, I'm gonna throw on a beat real quick and let me hear what you got. And he throws on the beat to that song, and in the first 20 minutes of that meeting, they are recording "Hi, My Name Is." Right? I'm like, oh wow, this is actually really kind of interesting the way that they're talking about it and stuff like that. And the advertisements specifically say at the very end, Netflix, right? A Netflix documentary. In Europe. They don't tell you that. But it's actually an HBO documentary here in the US.
Can we just watch it? I'll put it on now and I'll just relay everything that's happening.
Yeah,
he's doing it. He's doing it. Look at that little white boy go. He's sorting it out.
Lewin James says, have you heard Eminem's new album? No, I haven't. Was it Kamikaze? I have heard the diss tracks that have come out from this album, though. I guess, have you heard anything about this beef?
No.
That is, it's
so
kind of
tell me, John, where's the beef?
Yeah. Detroit.
We were talking about old memes and dated references.
Right. He did a song and he calls out this other hip hop artist named Machine Gun Kelly.
Sounds sane.
And right, he calls him out in a song on the album. And I guess this is in reference to some mean tweets that Machine Gun Kelly made 5 years ago. It's it's very much a James Gunn situation.
Get on it, Marshall. You know you still got it.
Well, so
how else you gonna show you got nothing to prove, buddy?
This is where it gets really, really weird, all right? So, and I'm inherently suspicious of this whole thing immediately, right? Because I didn't know about this beef until Machine Gun Kelly comes out with a response track, right? And he has this 4-minute long song where he just disses Eminem through the whole thing, right? And then, but it also has like a really well produced music video associated with it.
As you do.
And I'm like, huh, okay. And then because I don't really know anything about Eminem's latest release, and so I'm like, okay, well,
okay,
whatever. It's snow.
That's private, John. You're not supposed to know about that.
Yeah. So I look it up, and this response track with the video and all came out 2 days after the album dropped. And right away I'm like, wait, hold on. So you're telling me that this Machine Gun Kelly, having never heard the song before, in 2 days has a response track with a well-produced music video that's in multiple locations. It's not just 5 minutes of him in one spot. They're in different locales, and there's cuts and there's edits, and I'm like, no, this is being put on. This is kind
All right,
of
diss track police.
I
Are
fully
you telling
believe
me
that this is
popular gangster theme music is produced and orchestrated to suggest a level of rivalry not reflected to these people's actual lives? For shame, Jonathan.
like the context of this happening though is all these people on Facebook are like, "Oh man, Eminem's done, man. He's done. Have you heard the diss track? Like his career's over." And then flash forward 5 days, and now there is an Eminem response to the Machine Gun Kelly response to the Eminem diss track.
Wouldn't it be great though if the end result of this was the next step was Eminem just got shot with a machine gun? And they were like, "Yeah, how'd you like that diss track? How do you think I got
See, that's
that
the
name?"
weird thing, right? So the last time that something like, right, where there was this beef between well-known artists. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of beefs all the time in the hip hop world.
John,
but a lot of them are from. Well, I know
John's on the
enough,
street,
all right?
He travels in these circles. He knows all about it.
But okay, this is what I mean, all right? I'm not like that. But even I heard about these tracks, right? And these diss tracks. So this beef
Did you hear it from
transcended.
one of your homeboys?
Yes, Owen, my homies. God, you sound. You came very close. It's just sounding offensive. Like, yeah, you're right there on the edge. Just. Like, I love how Owen gets real close to being just a complete jerk on this channel. On his channel, he's like, "Oh hi, it's Papa British. Oh, I'm your good old buddy Owen. Hi. Oh, we're friends here. We all get along great. Come to those are biscuits. Yeah, fuck them all."
Well, I have unprecedented freedom here because, you know, the flack is shared.
My bank account's not tied to this.
That's just because nobody's watching.
So tune in. Hey, we got 7 people, or at least 5, because we're 2.
Tiny Bit Secret says, "I prefer crispy M&Ms." Are you suggesting we burn Eminem alive?
My God, Beth, like that is
not
grim.
acceptable.
Even that is.
My grandfather was burned alive. We don't joke about these things.
My grandfather was a crispy M&M.
I mean, he was playing in the crematorium at the time, so he had no excuse. Narcoleptics shouldn't play around in dangerous places, but still.
Lewin James says, "You do know Eminem didn't know that guy tweeted about Haley when he tweeted what he said Eminem found out 2 years after that tweet." Yeah, but no, my.
Yeah, I just don't care.
My. No, I'm. This is a topic, and we're going to follow it. I'm going to follow it, all right? No, my suspicions are not with, like, the source of the beef. My suspicions are with, like...
Yeah, they very obviously exploited the beef to make money.
Right,
together.
Yeah. I mean, this is clearly a... Like, to me, I think this is a well-orchestrated, calculated situation. Like, there might actually be real animosity between the two. That could exist. Like, I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is that they are willing to put aside their actual anger towards each other for money, you know?
Yeah.
Like they are
like
willing
the Logan Paul
to
boxing match. It's exactly the same thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Tiny Pastor says, "I know I have to get my killing rapper streak under control, really, but calling me out on it may not go well for you." Jeez. Like,
all right.
I think Beth is getting real in the streets. Like,
where were you when Tupac died?
But that's what I wanted to mention, actually, is the last time there's a beef big enough to transcend just the world of hip-hop, it was like the Tupac and Biggie one,
but
right?
but I still think the culprit in that was Quincy Jones.
Yeah?
Think about it, right? He'd recently controversially got in trouble for dissing Quincy Jones and criticizing him for dating white women, right? And then he started dating Quincy Jones' daughter. So obviously they knew, he knew where to find him. And they do say, if you keep an ear to the grapevine, an ear to the ground, and
The
aware of the grapevine, they do say Quincy never forgives.
Fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a case of this was another situation where they were trying to exploit a beef for money, for profit.
Right.
But certain people never got the memo. Well, I think everyone like Suge Knight and Tupac and Puff Daddy and Notorious B.I.G. I think they were all kind of in on it, but then there were some people on the fringe who weren't quite aware of the orchestration, and so they kind of took it upon themselves, and then it escalated.
Right. I mean, it's all nonsense. I didn't mind Eminem's career early on. I have no interest in it now. Like, it's such a... The laughable thing about Eminem, and people who talk about stuff like that these days, is he is so, and for a very long time, has been so unbelievably safe. Like, he is the safe rap person. He's the Disney of rap music now. Of rap music your parents won't approve of. You know what I mean? Because your parents now approve of you doing it. You know? They're like, yeah, I mean, go on, feel free.
The thing is that the reason why he's safe now is because I don't necessarily think that his like content is like sterilized by any means, but I think what the case is that all the parents now are the kids who grew up with those albums, so it's it's why like Kiss, right? It's like, to us, like, our parents listen to Kiss, we're like, oh, okay, whatever. Our parents don't care. But when they were kids, Knights and Saints, Service.
Right.
It was dangerous. It was dangerous music.
But what I mean is, yes, it's safe, but the world has moved on, and Eminem's basically doing the same shtick. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you know what? I think that's
neither
fine.
edgy nor interesting anymore.
Right. I mean, I still think he's a very talented wordsmith. I think he's very good at putting words together in clever ways with a beat, and it's interesting to sound. But I wouldn't say that his content anymore is anything to write home about.
Right. Like, I wouldn't sit down and listen to an Eminem album for the same reason I wouldn't sit down, for exactly the same reason, I wouldn't sit down and listen to Peter, Paul, and Mary. It's old and boring, and of no value.
Damn.
and safe, and cozy, and nobody.
And we all know Owen wants his edgy music. That's all he's about.
What I'm saying
edgy, dangerous music.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
Owen's out there setting fires at concert halls.
When the entire selling point of someone's persona in their music is, wow, I'm so dangerous and edgy, and look at me, and I say things other people won't say, right? Then not being edgy anymore is a pretty big blow to that music. You know what I mean? It would be like if there was an artist called Big Dick Malone, right? And all his songs were about the fact that he had a really big dick, and then you found out he had a really small dick. Or then he had his dick.
Well, there's you
know what I mean?
There's
that's
an artist
Eminem.
named Post Malone.
But that's Eminem, an artist who spent 30 years singing about how big his dick is, and he doesn't have one anymore. It shrunk in the wash, but he's still releasing those albums. Do you know what I mean? That to me, that's the effect.
Well, I mean, to me, to be fair to Eminem, I have not heard anything really off of that new album, the Kamikaze, so I have no idea what the content is.
Of course you haven't. You know why? Because you're not interested, because it's not interesting anymore. No. It hasn't been since 2003. That's why.
To me, like, I don't know.
Sure.
Other people are into it.
Because you've got taste.
I don't know, I do a stream with you every week.
But what I mean is, the only people who are still into Eminem are people who were late to it back in the day, and are like, oh yeah, I get it. This edgy Eminem fella.
This really got away from being a chill stream.
It's true. It's like it's like the people. It's it's like the people. It's like the people who just installed Pokemon Go and were like, "Oh yeah, this is quite a groundbreaking experience of social networking and connection." And you're like, "Really? We're all playing the Switch now."
I don't know. Real quick. Hello, Emile DeForge. I see you there. How's it going? Lou James like, wow, that is so harsh. It is. It is really harsh.
It's not. It's not. But like, this happens to everybody, right? You know, I wouldn't go buy an Eminem album, right? I wouldn't go buy a new rap album by Will Smith either. You know, because it's exactly
here's the thing.
same.
Like here's what I'll say.
I'm no
is that
longer interested in hearing people getting jiggy with it. The times have changed.
I no longer want to go to Miami.
And look, I could listen to the new Eminem album, but let me guess. There's a funny one, a sad one that samples a sad person singing, one with someone in from D12, and do you know, I already know exactly how it's gonna sound, and I can go listen to it right now, and I bet it sounds exactly as I imagined it. Do you know what it sounds like?
Yeah.
2003. That's what it sounds like. And so that's the thing for me. Like, how do you continue making a career out of being like, oh, I'm so edgy, and this is Eminem being the edgiest mofo in the land, when it's just this very boring, safe, crappy, not particularly... Okay, not crap. You know what? Crappy's not fair. Right, that's his quality hasn't changed a bit, I'm sure. I'm sure he's just as good as he used to be, but he's good at doing something that's just not... it's just... it's the same thing, you know?
But that's what musicians kind of are.
Sure,
like some do.
No, that's great, right?
Some
but
do
that's
experiment,
fine.
right?
But that's fine. No. This is no. I think you missed my part, right? That's fine if you're Neil Diamond, right? And your whole thing is, come see me. I'm Neil Diamond. You like Neil Diamond songs? You want another album of songs that sound like Neil Diamond? I'm Neil Diamond.
Are you suggesting no one thinks that Neil Diamond is edgy?
Like... No, it's not about being edgy. It's about when your entire reputation is, I'm Neil Diamond, or I'm Burt Bacharach, right? And I do this thing, and look, this is who I am. Come listen and have some songs that sound like other songs I did that you like. Great. There is value in that. But when your career impetus and your value is, oh, I'm a really clever guy at raps, but I'm also like shocking and edgy, and I'm too dangerous for your kids. Brr. And then you listen and it's just, yeah, but this is the same album you released like 5 times 20 years ago.
But I think that's your perception of his image. I don't necessarily think that means it is his image.
No, right. People who, you know, weren't there 20 years ago and... I don't even think that. I think it's like Grand Theft Auto, right? I think it's like Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto hasn't been controversial for... well, since what, 3, really, in any meaningful way, right? But it's still very successful on the back of a controversial reputation, and that's Eminem to me. He hasn't been controversial since Bill Clinton.
You know, okay, Tiny Bestick actually brings up a good point. He says, I think that's the image over here. It may be different in America. Yeah, I think that might be the case. Like, over here, like, the idea of people being controversial in music just isn't a thing anymore. Like, it never, like... I would say it might have ended...
In which case, Eminem has no value.
To you! Like... I still think he's a pretty good technical rapper. Like, I think he has a good technique and a good sound. Like, granted, I have not listened to the new album or anything like that, but I've heard some things here and there, and it still sounds okay. Like,
sure. But are you interested in hearing it?
I'm not a big rap fan to begin with, though.
Does Eminem as an artist excite you?
No, but neither does a lot of music, and I still can listen to it.
In 2001?
No, I was never a big Eminem fan. Like,
all right, fine. But What I mean
Like,
is,
I get what you're trying. I get what you're trying to say. I do, but I do think it's a case of a personal perception of an image being imposed on something that maybe not there.
and I think that's nonsense. I think his fame comes more from a reputation he hasn't really applied to him in 20 years, you know?
Let's see here. Lou and James says, Eminem helped me in my life, maybe probably because I'm young. That's fair. Like, that's, there's a lot of artists who are there for people. And maybe my favorite message of the night, Tiny Bester says, yeah, Owen is old, Lewin. Too old for rap. It's like that bit in South Park where the music of the young doesn't work for the parents.
Baby. But then that's ridiculous, though, because most of Eminem's most famous songs came out when I was young. Right. And I liked it. On and off, not all of it.
But okay, no, but here's the thing, right? These are the most popular songs that we consider their most popular songs. Like you might grab someone who is 15 and say, hey, what is your favorite Eminem song? Or what would you say the quintessential Eminem song? And they might say something along the lines of, oh, I don't know, Rap God, right? Where we would say Stan or Trapped in the Closet, whatever the fuck that song was. Like, I'm cleaning out my closet. And, like, so it's going to be two different answers, which means that there's going to be two different perceptions of who this person is as a musician and what their image is, you know? So This is not
a surprising concept to me. I don't think that changes whatever I'm saying. I don't think that really changes what I'm saying.
I think it does, because once again,
that's why you just said it.
Fair enough. But what I'm saying is that it's all based on personal perception of the artist. And your personal perception of the artist is not necessarily the truth to other people. I
mean, maybe this is obvious, John, but this is how opinions work, right? There's really no point expressing what I think someone else's opinion of Eminem is. Otherwise, we've got a really strange conversation on our hands.
But you keep on thinking this thing about, oh, Eminem is a controversial rapper, but he's not really controversial anymore. But that's the thing, is that to a lot of people listening to him nowadays, no, he's not a controversial rapper, and they don't expect him to be.
I don't know. I don't think. No, I understand what you're saying, but.
Yeah. Lou and James says, I wonder if Eminem is watching you now and thinking about dissing Owen. I would love that those are.
I don't know. We didn't prearrange
track.
It 6 months ago in an attempt to gain album sales.
Right.
But doesn't the whole doesn't the whole diss track thing kind of actually support what I'm saying, though? Don't you think? Like the fact that that's even an angle. You know what I mean?
But that's not controversial. That's just kind of a thing that exists in hip hop. It just it's like a constant there.
Well, never mind.
Chill stream. We're chill. So I gotta ask a question of you, an opinion, your opinion on this. So I'm kind of outlining the next issue already.
Oh yeah.
And I've been in kind of a different way that I did approach issue 1, because like issue 1, when we started talking about it, it was kind of like wham bam, like we mentioned it. By the end of that day, I sent you a concept, and you were into it.
Well, I have not actually read issue 1 yet, so.
Right. And I started writing. So everything was kind of on the fly. This time around, though, I'm going to have a little bit of time to plan out and things like that. And I'm how do you feel about like trying to plan out joke?
What
do you think that's something that should like there's kind of a joke that I want to tell in the next issue, but it is going to require some setup.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of feels weird to me to be like, okay, I'm going to plan and organize a moment of humor.
I think that comes from do you know what I mean? That feels like to me, personally, and I say this as someone, like, I know you and I both writers, so I don't want this to come out like I'm like, well, in writing, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to talk down to you. But
I'm not trying to talk down to you, but it sounds like a shit writer.
No. What I'm gonna say is, you know how, so, you don't really draw, right? That's
no.
my thing, I get it. Something I like doing. It's my thing. Don't you fucking touch it, John. Get your hands off the pencils. Put them down. That's something I've done a lot. I don't know if you've really leaned in that direction. But one really common thing when people first start learning to draw is they often don't understand really basic things, which I'm sure you know all about. But like, it's very common to find people who don't really understand that nobody draws with a pen straight on the page, right? You pencil and then you ink, and you know about that because you know about comics, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of people who don't really get that, and there's a lot of people who don't really get that when you draw things and you're learning to draw, you often go through long periods of actually drawing shapes that don't look like your final shapes. You know, you're building up geometric shapes and you build up layers to get space and things like that, and lots of practice and other things like lots of drawing from reference. I feel like that worry that it's wrong to plan a joke is like the joke writer's equivalent of that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's way normal to write them like that. But good writing is when you see people like write a really great joke, it's just that they've made that look effortless. And like it didn't take a ton of planning. Like, does that make sense?
Right.
Is that of value to you?
No, I get what you're saying.
No. I know that's not how you meant it, but it was very funny.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but absolutely not. No.
No, I think
no,
good jokes are always
I do
out
what you're saying.
That. But I guess there is that awkward phase. Like, there was a time when I was writing a stand-up comedy routine because I thought I might try it, and then I realized I would just not have the nerve to do it. But I had to actually sit down and try and write a joke, you know? Mm-hmm. And that was so weird to try and do. Because it feels so artificial. And the process I ended up doing was just sitting down and kicking around tons and tons of really bad jokes and like free association until you start to get the shape of something. But for a long time you don't know if it's going to work because you've had all those bad bits kicking around too, you know? You've seen how the sausage is made too much. What?
I'm sorry, I just read the chat, and I'm sure this is not how he meant it at all. When James goes, "Do you like music, Owen?"
An earthquake is occurring. Don't panic and wait for help if you are in the affected area.
Yes, I do.
I just like that tone. The idea of the tone being like, God, do you even like music? Just, you miserable person.
Yeah, I do. I play the guitar and I love it. And I like some bands. That
I like some bands.
I like some bands that used to be controversial and aren't anymore. Like Kiss is a terrific example of a band that used to be controversial anymore. But, and you know, you're absolutely right. Kiss made, I think this is probably a good example of what you were saying. Kiss made so much of their reputation on the costumes, and to so many people who grew up in the 70s, they were just a gimmick. But my introduction to Kiss's music was 80s Kiss, which I actually like. I really like the album Crazy Nights. So yeah, no, you're probably right.
So, okay, I'll not to reveal what the joke is. And the other thing that's kind of worrying me about this joke, right?
Just reveal the joke. Anyone who reads the comic's not going to remember by the time they see it.
Oh, sure. It's kind of a Brexit joke.
So
right?
I'll just say this. We've talked about releasing this, but I think the best way to release something like this is slowly, while you're still learning. So I suggest we release it like a page at a time, like 1 page a week, like a webcomic, and just let it gradually be a really slow burn, you know?
Sure.
And then it occurred to me that if you turned around issues as fast as you did it, and then I could turn around an issue in, say, less than a month, we'd get like a year ahead while they were still finishing issue 1. And then I actually quite liked that idea, because I was like, then we could go on holiday and just leave it for 5 years.
I mean, actually, my thought behind it was actually, let's just finish the whole damn thing first.
And then release it.
And then release it however we damn well please. If we do it all.
I like the idea of a page a week. I think that'd be funny. I still love really like long form, slow webcomics like that. So go on, talk me through the joke. Let's do it.
So, okay. So, all right, everyone who's listening, here's a little inside baseball on the story idea that we're doing. All right, the basic premise is a guy from today, the present, works for a company. He gets, let's just say, forcefully volunteered into an experiment involving time travel. And when the experiment happens, he ends up very, very, very far in the future. To a point where the Earth is actually not there anymore, because a horrific cataclysmic event happened. But to save humanity,
no, I actually have
the same company. Okay.
Carry on. Just,
not now.
Appropriate bit. No, there's something I didn't mention when I read the thing, and I meant to. I kept meaning to say something about it. Maybe it's one of the things I should have said before you got too far into the writing of the script, but because it might annoy you that I didn't say anything sooner. But just carry on. Depends on how pivotal it is.
So, okay. Well, anyways, leave me out all the details. Essentially, the Earth has been broken up into thousands of little space stations, where it's basically a chunk of the Earth, the land, the buildings, the water, everything on it, basically broken off and lives in a big bubble, right? That's the technology that allows them. It's like a tiny little atmospheres, right? But they're not really broken up into specific countries or states or cities, whatever. They're just it's kind of, random.
Okay, so this is what I was going to say. When you sent me this idea, you said that like each country might have its own space station when you first suggested it, right?
Sure. Right.
And I meant to say that is the premise to an episode of Doctor Who.
Right.
Right. Where they have the spaceship Britain and they can't return to Earth because of the solar flares. Do you remember that one?
Sure.
And I was
yes.
I didn't think it was close. Like I thought there was plenty of stuff to be done with it that wouldn't make that an overlapping area. But I did want to say something, and then when you mentioned it, I realized I hadn't said it. I was worried we'd just go, well, I just finished issue 1. I started issue 2, and then I'd say that, and it's like, fuck. And we go back to the drawing board. We had a star whale and everything.
No, I think there is enough difference.
Sure. So do I. I don't think there's anything necessarily overlapping about the idea of Earth is abandoned and everybody lives in space stations. It was very specifically the thing about there being like an area that was Britain and was still Britain, but as a spaceship. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Well, and the thing is, like, it's not like space station in the sense of like, how do I say this? It's not a space station that like, oh, everyone's in corridors and big machinery. This is literally like chunks of the planet that just now exist as their own planet. There's still skies. There's still weather.
I love stuff like
there's
that.
an outside. But
like one of the ideas I always had for a sci-fi setting that I wanted to do was the idea of like a space station but built out of lots of individual ships that were added over previous years, you know, that just connect in different places, like a sort of space version of Columbia from Bioshock Infinite.
No, I love Columbia as a concept and how it looks. There's something about all these kind of things like layered upon each other, but not necessarily like. I love have you ever seen like images of like the massive like Adobe complexes built along like sides of mountains and stuff,
Right.
or
Yeah.
sides of like cliffs? I like that sort of thing where there's like a three-dimensionality to everything.
And whenever I kick it around as a sci-fi concept, I always like the idea that closer to the center, you get older ships that have had like newer ships fused on. So you get like differing technologies, you get deeper and deeper into older architecture, you know? I always think that's so cool. I love that. Anyway.
So
yeah, carry on.
the concept of the joke, all right? I'm gonna reveal right away is that the first bit of future that we're gonna see in this book takes place in and because this is sort of a very personal, I don't want to say personal, but like a lot of the things in this book might just reference me and Owen, because I'm writing for us, you know. That's kind of where I've been.
He's writing
stuck
for two.
with. Yeah, I'm writing for two. So the first bit of future is going to be a chunk of Earth that has been a space station that kind of includes a majority of Leeds, right?
Oh, why would that
city
be
in the
relevant? No, just spill the beans. You want my full address as well?
You've mentioned that before. Shut up.
I have many times.
Lou and James says, how long have you two been working on this book, if I can ask? About 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty new. Don't expect
Yeah,
great things. It's going to be terrible, but it's going to be interesting. But this is the first thing we've ever really done like this, right?
Right,
So
right. Me and Owen are kings of pitching ideas to each other, getting very, very excited for it for like 2 days, and then completely forgetting about it like a week later. This is the fact that we've been I have been working on this for 2 weeks has already like broken a record.
Well, the nice thing about this one is the nice thing about this one that works actually is you're doing your bit, I'm doing my bit. We don't have to work together to do those bits. So we're working together, but we don't have to organize time to do it.
Right. We can limit the amount of interaction we have together, which is key for us. But no. So this section of the story takes place in Leeds, the space station, right? Space station Leeds.
This one's going to be a dump. Have you had to research Leeds for this?
Not yet. I do plan on doing a little bit to have some sort of... But the joke is essentially Leeds itself has found itself in a Brexit situation where they are considering leaving an alliance of sorts, a grouping. And the people who want to leave are desperate to try to come up with their own word. You know how like when Britain's leaving, so it's a Brexit, right? It's a catchy term that represents what's happening, and they're so desperate to try to have their own saying like that they come up with one that sounds really stupid. And what they come up with is the Leedsv movement.
That's going to be less and less funny every time we talk about it because it's a dumb joke.
I know.
But it's going to work on everybody who reads it for the first time. So I think that's great. I like that.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of like banners hanging that just say LEEDS-VE. You know. So that's a joke, and I'm a little worried about because I am. I really hate to say this to everyone listening to this who might be interested in reading this someday. I'm making a point not to write it for you guys. I am writing this specifically for fun for me and Owen.
That's what you got to do. Start working on
right. And if we get to the point where we feel comfortable releasing, then we will. So I don't know if anyone's super excited about this, but I hate to like tickle your pickles, guys, and then not finish the job. But yeah, that's a joke, and I was a little worried about it because yeah, it's a really stupid joke, and it's timely. You know, it could just not make any sense in a short amount of time to people.
Well, sure, but we got a good year before that stops being the hot topic in this country.
Sure. Tiny Bester says, during the referendum campaign, I refused to say Brexit because it was so stupid a phrase and it seemed like it wouldn't happen. That got harder to sustain. Loose Corner says, writing for 2. Thanks, guys. No problem. That was really funny. Reaper3125 asks, is this game worth $40? Loose Corner says he thinks so. And so does Sinister Minister. What do you think, Owen? Worth the $40?
Yeah, I think games like this tend to get a little bit of flack because people automatically assume that if it's not like a first-person shooter, it doesn't look like a AAA big budget. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like a major studio game, that it doesn't deserve the money because it's maybe a less popular genre, things like that. This game's popular, people really like it, people can and do pay for it, and it's actually really good. It's incredibly in-depth, it looks great for what it's actually putting on the screen. Like, a lot of people don't like this version compared to the PC version, but it's rendering a huge amount of stuff. I think it's a great game, and I think if you like this genre, it's the best game in its genre. So yeah, I think it's great. It's one of my favorite games. I always think that's a shame that if a game's not in the genre of what is the current AAA thing, people think automatically it's not deserving of, money.
Yeah, it's kind of a rough thing. Like, I mean, I'll admit that I'm actually kind of guilty of this sometimes, where there'll be games I'm excited about, like Dead Cells, for instance. Enter the Gungeon is another one. Games that I actually really want to play, but for some reason, seeing the price tag at still sitting at like $20 or even $15, I'm like, I don't know. But I never once questioned, never even once doubted buying Spider-Man, right?
Right.
Like, there was no part of me that
10-hour game.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, I fully believe that there's everything in these games that I've mentioned will entertain me, and entertain me for many hours. Like, I do believe that they will entertain me for a long amount of time. But there's just some weird thing in my head where it's like, I don't know, it feels like a waste of money. But for some reason, like, if I drop another perfect example, Battlefront 2. Once again, didn't doubt it for a second. I dropped the $60 on it. Even though leading up to that purchase, everything I read was like, no, don't buy this. Like, all the pre-release critiques and stuff are like, there's some freaking issues with this game, guys. Like, this, let's maybe hold back. And I'm like, nope, I can. It's a big budget. Yeah, and I bought it, and yeah, it was disappointing as hell.
The real tragedy with that one, because I did the same thing. And I did the same thing almost like I felt like, oh, you've bought so much credibility from me because I liked the first one. And Battlefront 2 isn't the first one. Like, it has its moments of playing as well as the first one, but there are so many issues that first one doesn't have.
Right. So, everyone in the stream right now, just to let you guys know, because, I don't know, you guys are here for it. I have just officially sent Owen the script.
No! Don't send me that, John. No! Keep that to yourself.
You love it. You love it.
That's inappropriate.
Just, oh my god, look how big it is. Just...
It's a lot of pages. What were you talking about?
Oh yeah, that. Page count. Woo, yeah, it's up there.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
Yeah, I went with it. I'm with you. I wasn't gonna leave you hanging.
There we go. Okay, sorry, I was connecting my thing there. Oh, I got it! Let's see. I haven't used OpenOffice in a while. I'm going to install that, but let's see.
I told you.
Oh, I know.
I warned you.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't do it yet. Oh, my sewage pipe has reached my water inlet. I'm in the bay here. Alright, let's take a look. I should be able to open it in Pages. Do you want me to read it out on the in funny voices?
Oh, no. Lou's Corner says, "Dear God," and Lou and James says, "Oh my God, sounds so dirty." You know it. Yeah, we sound dirty. We definitely aren't dirty.
We're actually quite clean. I had a bath this morning. It was good.
I go with the Roman version where I just roll myself in olive oil and then scrape it all off.
I do that as well as the bath. But that's nothing to do with hygiene. That's just, for pleasure.
Fun.
Right.
You ever had olive oil on your naughty bits? It's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, I mean, extra virgin was the theme. Oh! References that don't work when you're outside of high school, but it's still funny. Not even a little bit funny, but you laughed, so I feel good.
No, I just imagine someone grabbing a bottle of extra virgin olive oil out of their cupboard and be like, "All right, time to use a little extra virgin olive oil," and then someone going, "Not so much anymore." What?
Me and the olive oil got acquainted earlier.
Now it's the extra trollop virgin oil, or
we're modern men, John. We call it experienced olive oil.
yeah, it's the experienced olive oil. Reaper 3125 says, "My OCD is crazy with your city." Oh, well, that's Owen's gig, not mine. Lou's Corner says, "Sometimes I question half of the shit said on the streams." Yeah. How do you think we feel? Like, when the streams are over, we have to kind of sit there and ruminate on the fact that we said some of these things? Like, oh god. Oh shit.
To be honest, I think half is impressive.
And Sinister Minter says, "I want all of my food to be extra virgin." That's true. That is true. I can't think of a single bit of food where I kind of like, I wish someone fucked this thing before I got it.
Oh no, I can think of a few things.
Oh, can you?
No, I was just going with it.
So I say, oh, do tell. Like,
what if it's something you don't want to eat? And you need a good reason. Like, you don't like someone's cooking. You're like, okay, could you just do me a favor? Render that meal inedible? Like, okay,
you want
remember
me to
that
add more
episode
salt? Like,
of,
no, I want you to bang it.
Remember that episode of The Walking Dead, the game where you've got to try and get to Clem before she eats the human flesh? Right. It would be easier if you could say, "They're fucking the meat."
They fucked it, all of it, all of it.
Silent green is fleshlight.
Soil it. I just like the idea of like walking up to someone like holding a thing of like Braunschweiger, like, "Hey man, I really don't want to eat this. You wanna give it a go real quick? Just."
And then I have no excuse, because after you do it, I'm gonna tell people about it when they ask me why I didn't eat it. What's the problem? Why are you staring at me?
I I thought it all out, okay? I'm smarter than you.
Yeah. No, I think that works. I'm in favor of it. What's your problem?
Your Honor, let me explain my thought process, okay?
I think once I've explained, you will understand, and we can all put this misunderstanding behind us.
It's just what teenagers do.
By which I mean I only asked teenagers to do this.
Oh. Now it got bad.
I didn't mean it like that. Well, I figured if you said that, then you're a teenager at the time. Making it up that I meant something different. Outrageous.
Llewyn James says, "Oh yeah, what do you think about that they are not going to finish off the Walking Dead series game?" I mean, Owen talked about this before with each other, but I cannot think of a scenario where it might not be immediate and it might not be necessarily in the same format, but I don't see a version of this world where the rest of that series doesn't see the light of day.
Yeah, it's almost certainly going to happen.
It might not be a Telltale game anymore.
I do think the people who worked at Telltale should get severance before they start making money.
Absolutely. All those people who worked on the game should absolutely be paid for their work before any company.
Well, not just that. It's actually quite a few people. Have you seen those people whose hot take on this is, if those people at Telltale really cared about The Walking Dead, they'd finish it for free?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, get right on that.
Yeah.
I really care about it. Let me finish it for free. Luzcon says they said they were trying to finish it on Twitter. They did, but it was kind of a shaky thing. Like, if we can get funding.
Yeah.
And,
Right. I mean, and the other issue they're going to run with is that they do have sort of. There is a limited time here. They don't have it's not like Shenmue 3 where they have a decade to try to get this out. Licenses expire. Their ability to make a Walking Dead product may go away because of legal situations involving the IP. So, like I said, I would not. I mean, I think we'll see the end of the game as, Clem's story in The Walking Dead, but I am not ruling out the possibility.
Story.
Right. I am not ruling out the possibility of that story being translated into a different scenario that isn't The Walking Dead, if you know what I mean. Like,
right.
How do I explain this? It would be the story of Clem finishing out her story in the zombie apocalypse, except it's now a girl named Penelope with killer robots. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like that's what I mean.
I will say, I'm genuinely surprised how many people seem to be quite blasé about the fact that they start selling those without finishing all the episodes, because it never even occurred to me they did those like that. Like, I genuinely thought they made the whole game, then sold it in episodes as the business model, not like they. I figured they'd carry on working on them. You know what I mean? But I didn't think.
See, that's why I believe that I do, because I'm with you on that one. That seems very
reckless.
Like, if yeah, reckless. And if that's the way they developed it, I can't imagine any of those games ever doing well. You know what I mean?
And not knowing if you have enough money to finish 2 episodes?
Right. Right. Like, because, I mean, I don't know the nitty-gritty of these contracts for these properties, but are you telling me that the owners of the property, you know, of whoever owns The Walking Dead, Kirkman, I guess, since it was an Image book, are you telling me that these people, or Warner Brothers, there's a perfect example, Warner Brothers, who owns Batman, right? Are you telling me that they gave the okay to release this game without seeing a complete product?
Right. Yeah, it's really
that's
strange.
that's why I think that this final season, all the chapters are in various states of completion.
Well, from what I understand, this is from what I've gathered. This is what I take to be the official position. 1 was obviously finished because it was out. 2 was as finished as it needs to be before final release because it was ready to come out the next week, right?
Right.
3 was mostly done, and 4 was written but not started yet, in terms of like actual development, which to me sounds
seems insane. That is insane. Which to me, it sounds like this season was going to be a mess, anyways.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
so
I don't know.
Have you heard why?
I would have to see, you know, some a documentary or
like we're piecing together at this stage.
Right. I would need to see like development video journals of the other properties, you know, or the other releases they've done, you know, season 2 or Batman or the Tales from whatever. Borderlands. I want to see that and see if they're. Yeah, I've heard that's really good too. I would need to see those and see if they were released in the same manner, because I have a really hard time feeling that they were. My impression from all this, hearing that bit of information, was going into the final season, Telltale was already kind of fucked.
Unless it's a holdover from when they made episodic games like the Sam & Max games, which I could believe were actually developed in stages, but they were much, much smaller games. Do you know what I mean? When they made games like Sam & Max and... Was it Strong Bad they made? Strong Bad's game? That one? And those early Telltale games.
Sure.
But, you know, it would have to be a really bad holdover. But it makes a little bit more sense when you consider, like, have you heard why they suddenly ended up with no money?
I heard something weird with, like, Lionsgate, wasn't it?
Right. So the word is they were expecting money from a major developer. Sorry, a major studio. A major licensor, should we say. Someone. A major investor, that's the word I'm looking for. And at the very last minute... It
was Lionsgate, because they're the ones who do Stranger Tales.
Well, they haven't...
or Stranger Things.
They haven't officially released who it was, but everyone basically assumes it's Lionsgate. All the evidence points to it being Lionsgate, but that's not officially confirmed yet. So I don't want to say officially it is, but essentially they found out... I don't know how long it was between them finding out and the studio shutting down, but basically they were in a position where discovering that money wasn't coming in immediately put them in a position where they discovered there was no way of keeping the studio open. And I don't. And a lot of people have used that to like say, "Oh, see, so they couldn't help it." I'm like, what?
No. That means that there's mismanagement of money beforehand
for a very long time. You get to that position and you keep working your staff crunch time and don't tell them they're in that position, and that's where the company's at.
Well, actually, Lou's Corner comments on this. Actually, he says, also from what I've heard, the old Telltale CEO sounded like a horrible guy, and that the new guy tried to save Telltale.
Well, the new guy, the new CEO management was specifically brought in to try and get them out of the mess they were already in.
Right.
And so yes, they were already in quite a bad mess, because that was last year. And if you remember, last year in a single year they brought out A Walking Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, Batman Season 2, what else? Something else. You know what I mean? There was a lot last year.
Right.
And the other thing is
which means that there absolutely had to be some just grotesque mismanagement of money, because we're talking about money coming from Disney and Warner Brothers. Okay.
Right, but there's another problem, which is they were putting so much money into licensing and to getting these finished that word from people coming inside was there was no time to do stuff like talk or think about how we're going to do this game, and do we need to make changes to the engine? Do we need a new engine? So you've got all these games coming out and no level of innovation for each individual game. So if you look at reviews for those games, all the reviews basically say the same thing. It's The Walking Dead again, but now it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's The Walking Dead again, but now it's... Like, I liked that Batman game, but it is basically the same thing, right?
But that's also the first one they have the new engine in. Because they wanted to bring out the new engine with... Was it Season 2? Walking Dead Season 2, they wanted a new engine?
Yeah.
And they didn't, but it wasn't until that first season of Batman where they actually got one.
Yeah, and they do great things with it, and that first season of Batman gets some good reviews, but at that point, if you think about how deep they're in and how much they've saturated it at that point, like, I was late to the Telltale game, so it didn't really have this effect on me, but if you played The Walking Dead Season 1, The Walking Dead Season 2, Tales from the Borderlands, Game of Thrones, and all that, the announcement of a Telltale Batman game is probably for you going to be like, oh, okay, it's one of them again. Eventually, you're gonna hit that saturation point, and it's easy to go.
And that happened to me. That absolutely happened to me, because I was right on board with Walking Dead Season 1. Like, I'm pretty sure we were doing the show at the time, weren't we?
Walking Dead Season 1 was 20. Oh, maybe.
Because I was definitely ranting about that, and that first season of Walking Dead is a pinnacle for me of gaming experiences. Like, one of my greatest gaming experiences is the ending of that first season. Like,
well, I mean,
the emotional state that it left me in, like, will always stick with me.
It came out midway through 2012, so quite old actually.
Okay,
probably a bit before we. But so that means it's 5 years old now. It had exactly the same effect on me. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. And I moved right over into Wolf Among Us, which is also very good. That was their second, wasn't it? After it was, yeah.
I'm more surprised how recent Game of Thrones came out, because I remember Game of Thrones being quite a while away, and then apparently Game of Thrones is a lot more recent. I think it's more like 2015, 2016, and I also didn't realize Game of Thrones was considered to be disappointing.
Yeah, it was. Because it wasn't what everyone wanted. And that's the problem that people have with a lot of these IPs. It's the dangers of working with IPs like this. Is everyone wanted a game where you play, as Tyrion or as Daenerys and that whole group, right? Jaime, and they wanted a game that was those characters, right? But if you actually play through that game, you play as this relatively unknown house, right?
That's my favorite thing about that game.
Yeah, no, that's what I like about it. But yeah, you play as, I can't remember the name of them.
Forrester.
Forrester, there we go.
I think they are actually mentioned in the books, but like very briefly.
Yeah. They definitely pulled it from the mythos of the story, but a very small part that they knew they had kind of free reign with. And then all the established characters you meet are basically cameos. I mean, like, the most prominent main character from the show that you run into is what the fuck's her name? One of the Tyrells.
Right.
I can't remember. Natalie Dorner's character.
Right. But if you, it's such a stupid thing, because if you didn't do it like that, how would you get the Telltale experience?
Right. Exactly. But I think it was a case of like a perfect storm. Like, this is a point where Telltale now has pedigree. People who aren't adventure game fans know of them and know what they're doing. And now you're taking Game of Thrones, which, other than maybe Star Wars and Star Trek, have a incredibly feverish fan base. And then giving them something that does not match their expectations. Yeah, it's going to be disappointing.
I actually really liked what I played.
Yeah,
So
it seemed really good to me. I don't know, I've only watched playthroughs of it, and it always seemed kind of fun, cool.
But yeah, I think really what we're looking, I think like, with Telltale, what it's going to come down to is something that wasn't 100% their fault, which is they thought they had longer to get more out of that formula without revising it than they did, which is foreseeable, but a very genuine mistake. But then they just doubled down, and then ended up in the point where they were letting go of their staff without severance, you know?
Right.
Which is inexcusable, really, because, you know, there's...
Yeah, I mean, it gets to a point where, I mean, this doesn't excuse the actions, right? But there's so many mistakes made that it almost gets to a point where being unethical is almost like your last option, you know?
Right.
And which is still a damnable thing. Like, I still think that it's, you know, inexcusable, but I can sort of see how that comes about.
Yeah, I agree. Because you feel like, well, it's one of those things where, like, if it works and you save the company by telling nobody and the money comes through and you pull through, you're a hero.
Right. I mean, it's
not that justifies it.
It's that thing where, you know, it's that story you hear in, like, or you see a lot of in, like, crime movies, right? Where the main character dabbles in, like, drug dealing or whatever, because, like, I just need to get a little bit of money to get me by, and then I'm back on a straight and narrow. I'll go buy a piano and become a pianist like I always wanted to, or something like that, you know? That's what happens here, right? It's the runners of the company going, okay, well, look, it's not great, but we'll kind of do some fucked up things, but it'll all work out, and we'll pull ourselves out of it, and then we can just pretend like this never happened.
Yeah.
Then it went horribly wrong, and just like those crime movies, everything comes tumbling to the ground, and everyone's sad, and people get hurt.
Right, and I think it was Jim Sterling on his video about this was saying, you know, when this is all over, and people think of Telltale now, nobody's going to think of Telltale in the context of, wow, wasn't The Walking Dead a really great game? Telltale's legacy is now, wow, remember when they immediately shut down and fired 250 people without severance? That's
right.
That's going to be the Telltale story now.
Yeah, it's their legacy is now tarnished. The only thing that really saves them is if for some miracle a THQ Nordic situation happens. Right. If the ex-employees of Telltale can get together and reform a company and have the ability to use the name, they can redirect the legacy. But as it stands, if that doesn't happen, the punctuation mark on Telltale is this.
Yeah, and you know, rightly so.
Yeah, you earned it, buddy. It's sad. I mean, yeah. The saddest thing about it is, and I'm going to go on a limb here, or not a limb. I'm going to take my place firmly upon this soapbox and say, if you believe that the saddest thing about this whole situation is that you don't get to see Clem's ending, you're fucking terrible. Like,
right.
The saddest thing is absolutely these people's lives. Like, they all lost health care. They had families. They were expecting payment. They put in hours. They probably, some of them most likely, had damaging things happen to their relationships, because of crunch times and missing out on time at home and with their families and loved ones, because, all you have to do is hear any anecdote from any gaming studio, and then when crunch time hits, it's a miserable experience for these people.
Right. And they also, without being disclosed, not just without severance, they lost time they could have been spent looking for a new job. If they, people who were informed what was happening and wanted to stay could have stayed. People who didn't want to risk it could have been looking for new jobs in that time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The whole thing is terrible. And, like I said, the saddest thing is, of course, the impact to human life. I don't know if anyone died over this, but quality of life for these workers. But, at a much lesser degree, it is sad that, we don't see the conclusion to Clem's story, at least not yet, or when we wanted to. And, some of their, I would say that Telltale definitely got stale with their games. I'm not going to deny that. But they still made some damn good stories, some good narratives, some compelling video game narrative work that you didn't really see coming out of anyone else.
Yeah, I haven't played Tales of the Borderlands yet myself, because the reason is because I didn't play Borderlands 2 to the end, or 1. And I hear it's very much a Borderlands 2 game, Mm-hmm. But I hear that one's amazing.
Yeah, I think visually it's really cool. Like not like graphics wise, but they do some really fun like camera work and cinematography. Like I want to say it's the beginning of episode 2 of that. There's a really great moment where they are in a car chase, and there's a bit where the car kind of falls apart.
That sounds fun.
And there's this great slow motion scene. The music is used perfectly of each one of the characters reaching out to grab the next one down the chain to make like a chain of people hanging out the back of this car. But it looks really cool. Like it's really neat looking. I don't know if anyone's played that. You can let me know if I got the right moment or not.
Sounds really good.
But, but I guess the nice thing is that we are seeing people pick up, or have already in the process of picking up the torch. And the big one, of course, is not Stranger Than Fiction. Life is Strange, right?
I thought you were meaning something different a little bit.
Oh no,
I was agreeing, but I was thinking you were talking about things like Ubisoft the day after holding a lunch for all ex-employees to see if they could get new jobs, things like that, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
there was a lot of stories like that, and that was great.
That's cool. I really haven't heard much about that. But is like Telltale more than any other company, I think, revitalized a genre, right? I think adventure games had been really pushed the niche market before they hit, right? Before they come out with Walking Dead, adventure games are kind of like relics of the past.
Right.
Like
even when they
and...
tried to bring them back prior to that, which they had done, they worked on Monkey Island and things like that. It hadn't been as
Jurassic
it hadn't
Park,
happened
Back to
as
the
a
Future.
big hit.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, they kind of brought it back, and now you have companies. Life is Strange is owned by Square, like Square Enix.
And it is like I don't want to say it is a Telltale game, but it is
right.
it is so
it's in the
clearly
same vein.
inspired by Telltale.
Sure.
If Telltale made
just to say
you
that,
wouldn't be like, well, this is weird.
right? You're talking about a company that has their own press conference at E3, willing to dabble in adventure games and showcase it. Like, Stranger in Fiction was showcased during those press conferences at E3. Like that genre is, I'm not gonna say it's back and better than ever, but it's relevant again. And I think you can thank Telltale for that.
Absolutely. I think so.
So and I really hope a lot of the workers who helped make that happen go on to find success elsewhere.
Yeah, me too. Because they deserve it.
So with that being said, I'm going to pose a question to you, assuming you want to keep on streaming.
No, yeah, sure, I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
I've got trouble in my city because I've polluted the whole lake, and I've been trying to... All I've been doing for the last little while is trying to push... I've been putting these little freshwater outlets into the lake to flood the pollution away. Now I've managed to move the outlets elsewhere, so yeah, I'm engrossed.
Kind of imagine this summer, trouble has hit Biscuit Bay, and one city planner is the only one who can save the day.
Poop water. In theaters now.
City Skylines, the movie. But I don't know, what other genres of game do you think can be revitalized like adventure games were with Telltale?
So it didn't really happen because, in my opinion, what happened to mobile gaming essentially killed mobile gaming.
Yeah.
But I really felt that the rise of the tablet could have brought back the real-time strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the real-time strategy was killed by piracy on PC. Very much so. Very famous example of a genre that just... It was primarily a PC genre, and PC was where most of the piracy happened, and it also happened to be played by tech-savvy people, and now there is only one real-time strategy game worth mentioning, and that's StarCraft.
Right.
Which also happens to be a real-time strategy game I don't particularly care for. I like the Command and Conquer type. That's my favorite genre of real-time strategy. I don't like the Warcraft type, where you have to have, where you have to have bases to limit your troop number. I'm just not a fan of that type myself. Right.
To me, StarCraft is so... the reason I have an issue with StarCraft, and here's the thing, I'm terrible at StarCraft. I was always terrible at it, so this might be painting my perception a little bit. But StarCraft relies so much on resource management as opposed to battle tactics.
Yes.
I mean, there is something to be said about, there is, counter builds to, like, if you know that your enemy is building this unit primarily as their main force, there are counters, like, okay, well, I'm going to build this but to even get to that point of the game, you have to manage your resources to like a thin hair. You have to be that precise to make it happen, and that's annoying to me. That's not fun.
I agree completely.
I mean, and I remember this was an argument that we had way back in the day. I actually liked Command & Conquer Generals.
Okay.
I enjoyed.
So let me just clarify.
That game.
I don't think Command & Conquer Generals is a bad game. I think it's a fine game at what it is, right? I just don't like it when people, particularly EA, because this is the thing EA has done a lot of, right?
Right.
When they buy up these properties and then they release something that isn't really what the original series was, and then try and sell it as, oh look, it's another thing. So my issue with that game was, if you like Command and Conquer, that's not really very much like another Command and Conquer game. All the things that make Command and Conquer different from other real-time strategy games, that game doesn't have. And so it always irked me that they sold it as a Command and Conquer game to get the sales on it. Do you know what I mean? To get the vibe on it. They wanted a new real-time strategy game, but they wanted to appeal to more, like, I don't want to say the Call of Duty crowd, but closer to that kind of market. But then they sold it as a Command and Conquer game because Command and Conquer is, or was then, it hadn't been completely run into the ground yet. It was a brand that had recognition with people who liked real-time strategy games. And
I mean, what that game is it's the real-time strategy version of military fetishism. You know, it's
and I would argue
it's very much that.
Given that after that game, but given at that point, Command and Conquer Generals, we had what, 3 more Command and Conquer games, and each one did less and less well. I mean,
there was like Command and Conquer Generals and then Command and Conquer Generals 0 Hour, which was an add-on.
Yeah,
and then I think there was a Generals 2, wasn't there?
When did Red Alert? I don't remember. When did Red Alert 2 come out? Was that before or after Generals?
Way before. But there was a 3. There was a Red Alert.
Sorry, I'm thinking of Red Alert 3.
Oh, that definitely came. That definitely came afterwards, and
But Generals was after Command and Conquer 3, right?
Yes.
Oh, no, do you know what? It couldn't be, because I used to have a complete Command and Conquer set that didn't include 3, but it had Generals. Okay, so after Generals... Oh, these are
and Red Alert 3 plays very much like Generals.
Do you think?
Yes, it does. They try to bring back, you know, like the FMV stuff, and there was actually some FMV stuff in Generals as well. But Red Alert 3 tries to take the tone of the Red Alert games, but then the gameplay itself is very much.
Well, okay, I will say it's been a long time since I played Generals, but I don't remember those being very similar at all.
I mean, it was the same. There's 3 factions. There was, and each one had essentially a mirror version of the same unit that acted just a little bit different, and it was very much a rock paper scissors.
Yeah. So, but all the games released by EA gradually killed that brand more and more, I would say.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think Red Alert 3 was that bad. I quite like Red Alert 3. I didn't like Tiberian... Oh god, what was it called? What was 3 called? Not 3, Command and Conquer... I'm trying to think which one it was. The one that was on the Xbox. The Tiberian themed one that came out around the time of...
Renegade.
No, not that one. Okay, so there's 2 timelines, right? There's Red Alert and there's the Tiberian one.
Right.
Do you know what? It must have been Command & Conquer 3. No, it couldn't be, because Command & Conquer 4 was called Command & Conquer 4. You remember? But it wasn't the 4th Command & Conquer game, because Tiberian Sun... Oh no, Tiberian Sun was the 2nd, wasn't it? So it must have been Command & Conquer 3. Command & Conquer 3 is the one I'm thinking of. I thought that was rubbish. Like, that one's terrible. I think Red Alert 3 is fine. Red Alert 3 feels like Red Alert to me. That feels like classic Command & Conquer. I just think that the franchise had been completely screwed by that point. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Let's see here. Nate Hughes says, "Hi, I knew. Welcome. Welcome.
Hi, New.
Enjoy.
I'm Owen.
This is... Oh, jeez. Yeah, welcome to Those Are Biscuits. We're
Geologists predict that a sinkhole can strike at
a pop culture centric channel where we like to talk about games and movies and television and music and all that sort of stuff. And we, sometimes we play games while we do it. A lot of times we don't. This happens to be just a fun, chill stream we decided to do, and we're just talking about shit. So if you have anything to add or any topics you want to discuss, let us know.
So yeah, my answer was real-time strategy. What about you? What genre do you think can come back?
What genre do I think can come back? Because my thing was actually real-time strategy too. But there's others. There's others. I mean, I think platforming is seeing a nice resurgence.
So what would you say is the game that's responsible for that? Because I would say it's not Ukulele.
Well, I'm not saying 3D platforming. I'm saying.
No.
I'm talking, that one's a little bit harder to pin down. Like, what's the cause of that resurgence?
Because let's say Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends both came out and were great games, but I wouldn't say they did well.
No, I would say the thing that's leading that resurgence more than any specific title is the emergence of the roguelite.
Yeah, which is at its core usually platform.
Yes, things like Spelunky and Rogue Legacy. I mean, now Dead Cells. Hearing a lot of great things about Messenger. I think all those sort of things have contributed to the rise of platform again. And more than just a specific title. Here's a genre that I think deserves a comeback and could do it. Is we were talking about just the other day. It's the side-scrolling brawler.
Oh, like Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage, Final Fight, Golden Axe.
I actually really like
those games. Yeah, I love those games.
I don't think there's been a good one. I don't think they made the transition to 3D because they are fundamentally 2D games. Fighting games survived because of the arcades.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's been some good ones. What was that one that came out for the Xbox 360 that was kind of like you played as a punk band who gets sent to hell? Oh, what was that called? That was fun. God, that was fun.
The Scott Pilgrim game that you can no longer buy. That was supposed to be pretty good.
That was good. Yep. I mean, it was basically a complete remake of River City Rampage.
That's great.
God damn it.
That's entirely a good thing. Do you know Rocksmith 2014 has a game for learning scales that is basically Streets of Rage.
Charlie Murder, that's the game I'm thinking of. Charlie Murder, that was fun. Oh, that was really fun. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
Rocksmith 2014 has a copy of Streets of Rage as a game for learning scales. So your characters walk up to other characters. Those characters attack in different patterns depending on what scale they're trying to teach you. And then you have to perform the scales. The faster you perform the scales, the higher your combos will be.
Right.
And it actually, once you start to get a feel for it, it doesn't feel like you're just playing guitar. And like some of those games like that, they're kind of wonky. They don't really feel like you're actually playing. When you get the feel for this, when you feel like you're actually playing a brawler, it's really fun.
That's cool.
That's good.
So here's the thing. Like, I think the side-scrolling brawler can make a comeback, but the industry is also actively like hamstringing itself with this because with a few exceptions, pretty much all of the side-scrolling beat-em-ups that we've seen come out have just been remakes of other ones. We had was it Double Dragon Neon, which didn't do great. Then they straight up just made Double Dragon 4, which apparently was terrible.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty bad. The weird thing is there was a Double Dragon 4 like in the olden days.
Right.
So it's not a remake of Double Dragon 4. It is like when they made Mega Man 9.
Yeah.
But there already was a Double Dragon 4.
What else? What else is killing? Like I said, they redid Double Dragon. They tried to rebrand Double Dragon. There was another one I was just thinking of. They made Shaq Fu, which I know was not a side-scrolling beat-em-up to begin with, but they made a Shaq Fu that is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, and apparently it's not great. Like it's. And I've heard very like, oh, it's fine. But it's
this would
nothing to write home.
This would be a great place for a licensed approach like Telltale, because a lot of my favorite brawlers from that time are actually licensed games. So, like, one of my
Yeah.
favorite Super Nintendo games is Death and Return of Superman, which is a
Oh, that's
Streets
a
of
good
Rage
one.
type game.
Yeah, that's a really fun game. Spider-Man, Maximum Carnage. I love that game.
Yeah, do you know what my favorite
Love
Spider-Man
Maximum.
game is? It's not a side-scrolling brawler, but have you ever played Spider-Man versus the Kingpin?
I don't. Maybe.
It's so good. It was on Mega Drive and Super Nintendo, or Genesis and Super
Okay.
Nintendo. And so it is a side-scrolling sort of platformer, but you play Spider-Man. It's you get 2 levels by going through kind of a mini hub where you're in the city and you actually crawl up buildings and go through windows. Once you're into the levels, you can web swing. If you actually hit the right buttons, you'll swing along the roof, and swing through the levels. You fought different goons and bad guys and things like that, and you also had a camera, which you could hit. If you hit the camera where you saw different things, and take photos
Oh,
of the
I do
bosses,
remember this game now.
yeah, and then you'd get the cash to buy the web fluid. So the more things you took photos of in one level, the more web fluid you have access to in the next. So good.
Yeah, I remember this.
So much fun.
Yeah. I would say that there's like, okay, so I think essentially that the genre has one more chance. They're making a new Streets of Rage. It'll be Streets of Rage 4.
Stop making Streets of Rage. I don't even like. Never even liked Streets of Rage. I'm sorry.
I really like Streets of Rage. I love Streets of Rage.
I liked the Turtles games. Not the
Right,
NES
that was the
ones.
other one I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say is the other version of the side-scrolling beat 'em up that I want to come back is the big 4-player co-op one. You know, we were talking about this earlier today. The Avengers game, the Turtles one. I love those games.
Well, we could play that Power Rangers game I bought.
Oh, fuck that.
That was atrocious.
But no, that Avengers one, I love that one. I can't move. You know that. I love that stupid shit. But yeah, I would like to see a comeback of that. You know, where you had all the tropes, right? You had the side-scrolling one, and you had the sort of flying mission, and you have the kind of isometric view mission.
And we're in a really interesting time right now because for a long time when they revived stuff, they kept reviving stuff as a different type of game.
Right.
But then if you look at the games we've had recently, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Doom, these are all games where they've gone, okay, what do people like about the original Doom, and how would you make that today without trying to make anything else? You know, if you were trying to get the same experience today, what would that game look like?
Well, I haven't played it yet, but I think they're taking that approach with the new Mega Man, right? That's coming out. That Mega Man, is it 9? Is it Mega Man 9?
Oh no, they already did 8 and 9 because they were just 8-bit
Okay,
ones.
so maybe it's Mega Man 10, but yeah, they're making a brand new Mega Man game, you know, and there's a playable demo out there. I'm pretty sure you can get the demo for it right now, but it looks like Mega Man except just pretty. It's pretty. And you know what actually the funny thing is? The biggest complaint I've seen about that demo is, and this has got to be something that they're going to fix, but there's a weird thing where if you try to jump through you know how everyone did it when you got to the boss level? You made sure you jumped through that gateway so that the camera slid over and you were stuck and frozen in the air.
Right.
You know, apparently right now in the code, it immediately drops you to the ground. So you don't float through the door. Yeah. Like, that's the big complaint I've seen so far. But everyone, the gameplay is Mega Man. They do a few things different, like, and this is what I mean, they're basically sticking to the core of the game, but they're utilizing the new technologies to help them. Powers are on a quick menu, or like a quick swap, right? So you don't have to go to a menu.
Right. No, that's good.
Right. The rocket powers is on a button, which leads to more interesting
So did you
platforming.
Did you
So
play
if
Mighty
you
Number
can
9?
call out Rocket on the fly, that means you can do some more fun stuff with
Oh, fair enough. Good.
platforming.
Did you
Sorry,
play
what were you saying?
Mighty Number 9?
No, but everyone gave that a lot of shit because because it wasn't Mega Man.
Yeah.
But I thought what I saw actually looked kind of interesting. The idea of building up the combos and keeping a flow to your game. That seemed actually kind of interesting to me.
Maybe it's just because I'm not like an aficionado of that genre. But I played it. My experience with it was like I wouldn't sit and play this game for fun myself, but I wouldn't sit and play Mega Man either.
Right.
And it seemed fine. It just seemed fine. It seemed all right.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see. Yeah. There's plenty of examples of these games that they're going back to their roots, but they're utilizing the technology better. What is it? Bloodstained, which is basically Castlevania, except now there's multiple characters that play differently.
Looks great.
And then they can use the other characters to go back Castlevania style.
See, I don't
and
even
get into
like
areas.
Castlevania. And it looks great.
Yeah,
But
that looks really good.
we actually have to wrap up because it's midnight.
Fair enough.
Here.
All right.
And,
Thank you all for joining us in this chill stream.
Yeah.
This has been fun. And
liked it.
as more things happen with this comic book, if we get to a point where we feel we want to release, you'll be the first to know. But until next time, I have been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadotte, and with me as always, Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you normally?
Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams.
Awesome. And you can find me right here on this channel. This is where I put my content. And you can follow me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. That's Jon, the letter C, person. And until next time, have a good one.
Bye-bye.